Hello and welcome to a homecoming edition of Sand Shark Bites. It's homecoming week here at USCB, kind of a new tradition here. As those of us who are familiar with USCB know, we've only been a four-year school for a little over a decade, and so homecoming is kind of a new thing. We don't have a whole lot of alumni, but that alumni base is growing, and we hope to see a bunch of them back home this weekend for the big soccer match on Saturday, for the homecoming concert on Friday. But first, an edition of Sand Shark Bites. No better way to kick off the week, right, Duffy? We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Justin Jarrett, your host, co-host Sir Duff's a lot, James Duffy, at my left-hand side as always. My left-hand man. It just wouldn't be right if he were my right-hand man.
It's the sinister
Right
side.
is right, left is wrong, right?
Right.
There you go. Well, James, it's been, I've never called you James before.
Very
James.
strange for a moment.
Mr. James A. Duffy, it has been an interesting week to say the least, a busy one. Not the best one we've ever had, probably, but we had some highlights. The cross-country teams went up to Charlotte for the weekend and had another strong race. The men continue to really impress and surprise, and Anthony Vecchio led the way again with a top 5 finish, and number is escaping me at the moment. I want to say 3rd?
I thought he came in 7th, but the team came in 6th overall. But anyhow, the moral of the story is he got a top 10 finish. The team had a great finish. Nick O'Neill was second on our
Nick was
team.
15th, I believe.
And
For some reason, that one sticks out to
and
me.
then Chase Rodas.
Chase was unimpaired
with
as far as we
shoes
know.
and unmedicated. Managed to put in a personal best time for himself, I believe.
Yes, he did. We had several PRs. Daryl Dunham, my man, came up strong, had a big PR, and beat 6 people. He promised me he would not finish last, and he came through for me. Way to go, Daryl. The men continue to impress. The women are coming along. Joy Miller with the top 10 finish. Melissa Carter right on her heels as always. And Betsy Douglas is starting to pick up the slack there and catch up to those top 2, which is what we need to see. And then we need to see 4 and 5 make a move. And I think it's just a matter of time. They have one more race before the Sand Shark Invitational, and they're working hard and really trying to get those times down.
And the team overall, I think, was 6th in that. Is that not right? But
The numbers are just swimming wildly in my head right now.
It's a bad Monday morning here in the Shark
It is.
Bite studio.
It's been a rough one. For those who don't know, I have 2 children under the age of 4. Monday morning is probably not the best time for us to shoot this show, but that's what we do. So.
And I spent Saturday night up in Columbia watching my hometown Tigers playing my new hometown Gamecocks, and
That's all we'll say about that.
Yeah.
I'm a Mizzou graduate, and that's all I have to say about that.
So,
Big smile on my face.
But we also had the golf. The women's golf was out there in force, playing some of the games of their lives as well.
Yeah, they really showed some improvement this week, which I think was to be expected. We talked last week about how the 3 freshmen were playing their first collegiate event, and that's always going to be a little bit of a challenge. A pretty big moment for them. But they came back this week at Old South this weekend. 306 both days for the team. Emily Turner from England led the way again. Tidy little 1/73 on Sunday, which was very strong, very encouraging. And Tori DeGroot back in the lineup this week. She's still kind of recovering from that hand injury, so I think it'll come along for her. They've got 2 more tournaments this fall to put things together and start to build towards spring. And we'll actually have Alexis Bennett, the coach, on in just a few minutes on Coach Speak, talk a little bit more about her team. And they're a fun bunch. They have a lot of fun.
That is a fun team. And it really is showing us that we've got these great teams that are finally kind of coming into their own in cross country, both men and women's, and golf, both men and women's, where the team that we would see most at home is our soccer team, and they are injured and hurting psychologically as well as physically.
Yeah, it's been a rough go as far as things not going their way. They've had a lot of adversity. They didn't play well on Friday in the Sun Conference opener at Northwood. That's a game that we probably would have had to play the game of our lives to be competitive with the number 13 team in the country, and we didn't do that. I mean, Coach Ed Heberling didn't have a lot to say about it except that we didn't play well, and he didn't quite say it in those words, but he was not happy. 11-0 loss, not what we were looking for or what we expected. Came back and played a much better game on Sunday, evenly matched game against Johnson and Wales. That's always a close game, always competitive. and had some tough breaks there as well. Had a player sent off with less than 2 minutes left in regulation, had to play a man down for all of overtime. Survived all the way to the end, 19 plus minutes of overtime, and then with less than a minute left, gave up the golden goal to lose 2-1. So, that's a heartbreaking defeat, and those are the games that are going to make or break where you end up in those conference standings. So that one's gonna sting, and it's gonna be we're gonna have to get back on the horse this week, and we got another big one. The big rival, Scat Savannah, comes in on Saturday, 1 o'clock for homecoming. And it's going to be very important. And
all of our walking wounded on that team are desperate to get healed up before Saturday. Emily Mentrop broke her foot or broke a thing in her leg or something, and she's not going to probably make it. And she's just mad as something. But saw her the other day limping around and asked her what was going on. And we see so many of them being carted across campus in DPS golf carts to make sure they get to class.
It's never good when the team is on a road trip and you walk across campus and you see a whole bunch of players who are key players or starters and they're not on that trip. That's always bad. And it seems like that list is growing with each week. And
if you've got some extra crutches sitting around in your basement then from when your skiing accident a few years ago, we could use them here. We're starting to run out of some basic medical supplies.
Go see Joey in Athletics Building C and hook him up with some crutches. But yeah, it's getting ugly on the injured list, and they are chomping at the bit. I was on a mass text with them. Joey was keeping us posted on what was happening down at Johnson & Wales, and all the injured players were on there. And you could sense their frustration that they couldn't be there to help out, especially when we got to overtime, and they were really twitching to be there. I know Alexa Muffley is just devastated, but she'll be back for another year, and everyone else who's on that injured list will be back, so that's the good news. But not a whole lot more good news from soccer. It's been a tough go. They're due for some things to go their way, and hopefully it starts on Saturday.
And you really think that, or you hope that we have a strong fan base at Finland Saturday to support the home team. There could be so much that helps our team by just having a crowd in place that will give them that extra boost when they need it. We'll have them play through that 20th minute of overtime. That'll have them maybe keep their heads up and not get kicked out in the 89th minute of the game.
The highlight of that one was another goal from Shannon Blair. She put a header on a nice cross from Alexandria Radu. Both of those players have come on. They're two of the ones who have really stepped up and played very well in the absence of some of their teammates, and we look for them to keep doing that on Saturday. So don't have too much fun Friday night at Candace Glover here on campus.
Candace Glover's Saturday.
Excuse me, Saturday night.
From the game.
Don't have too much fun Friday at the USCB Fall Classic golf tournament at Sanctuary Golf Club or the Burn the Bee.
I will be at the golf tournament.
All right.
I am playing in the golf tournament. So.
Oh, good times will be had by all. Yes, I haven't seen your golf game. I look forward to that.
It looks a lot like my bowling game.
I'll be manning the hole-in-one hole to play witness if anyone pulls one off and to take team photos out there. So should be fun. Hopefully the weather's great, and if you haven't signed up yet, I think we have a few spots left. $100 for an individual, $400 for a foursome. Go see Rachel Williams in development. RS Willia, I believe, no MS, at uscb.edu and see if there's any space available for that. Men's golf, playing havoc with our news cycle. They play on Monday and Tuesday this week at the Thomas Invitational in Valdosta, Georgia. That's just totally wreaks havoc on our news cycle. We can't tell you anything about it. By the time this gets posted, it'll almost be over, but we won't know anything until afterwards. So you'll have to check back next week. That's incentive to come back next week and check us out, find out what happens with men's golf. Softball got out to their practice the other day. That team is looking great. Going to be a really exciting season with them. They've got some fall games on Sunday.
Right after homecoming. So
noon and 2 on Sunday out in Hardyville, taking on St. John's River Community College, I believe, or State College out of Florida.
Soccer Saturday, concert Saturday night, softball Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend. Baseball, I got to see them a little bit too. Work in progress, just because they have so many new players that they're kind of trying to work into the mix, and because they can't get on the field because it's been so wet out here. But they've got some exciting young players and some exciting new players and quite a few returners too. So it was good to see them get out and have a little intra-squad on Friday and or on Thursday, I believe it was, and knocked the ball around a little bit. They haven't gotten to do that very much. So
great leaders are coming up
nice.
on that team. We lost a lot of guys in the last 2 years that really developed, started, and led that team.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys have left, and so there's some really interesting players who are showing leadership ability and real motivation to get the team.
Yeah,
back
so
to the World Series in the
yeah, we'll see how it goes in the spring. You know, it's when you have that many new players, it's always kind of an unknown. And I think even if you ask Coach Llewellyn today, he'd say, "We don't really know yet. We're going to have to wait and see who can throw strikes when the lights are on." And but he's excited about some of the newcomers, and I think it's going to be a fun year over there.
February's still a long way off, so we got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, and a lot of times championships are won in the fall. You know, you put in the work in the fall, and it comes home to roost in the spring. So I know they're putting in the work, and hopefully it will pay off in the end. Well, that's the quick rundown. That's all we know. I can tell you more, but it would mostly involve toddlers and shenanigans that go on with them. That's about it for as far as Sand Shark news goes. But we will have Alexis Bennett on the show in a few minutes on Coach Speak. She'll tell us more about the women's golf team. That's coming up right here on Sand Shark Bites. Welcome back to Sand Shark Bites. It's time for Coach Speak, and I'm joined for the first time by Coach Alexis Bennett of the USCB women's golf team. You can follow him on Twitter at USCBW Golf. Always get some nice behind-the-scenes stuff from the tournaments, which is always cool. It's tough with golf because we don't have live stats or anything. We can't keep up, right. So it's really cool to be able to check out the Twitter and get a little sneak peek at what's happening out there from time to time. But, Coach, a couple of tournaments under your belt so far this season. The fall is off to a good start. You've got a lot of freshmen who are kind of getting acclimated to the collegiate game, but you have to be pleased thus far with how things have gone.
Absolutely. Those freshmen really came in and did what I anticipated they would do. Francie and Emily particularly kind of jumped right into the top of the lineup, and I think we've counted their scores all 4 rounds through 2 tournaments. So I'm really pleased with the way they came in and sort of shook up the lineup and made qualifying a lot more competitive with those 5 recruits coming in, but especially those freshmen.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference so far is Coach Bennett, she couldn't shuffle the deck last year. She never had more than 5 players eligible at a time. So it was whichever 5 you had were the ones going in the van on the way to the tournament, and that certainly made things tough. Now you can play the hot hand a little bit. You can have a little more fun with the qualifying, and I think you're really going to see that's going to make everybody step up their game.
Absolutely. Last year, like you said, I was sort of crossing my fingers. We were a little bit in survival mode, kind of hoping that we didn't have any injuries or eligibility issues. But this year is a completely different scenario. We have 9 girls where any 5 could go at any given time. So that just makes practice a lot more fun. They're showing up. They're ready to get going. They're working on things, working on their own games. I don't necessarily have to push them. Most of these girls are pushing themselves harder than even I would have anticipated pushing them. So it's a lot of fun to see them get better, to see them be even frustrated with some rounds that we would consider really good, comparatively speaking, to last year.
And having a little fun with that internal competition too. You had the Ryder Cup. Everybody, we've talked a lot on the show about the makeup of this team with the international flavor. The Ryder Cup setting for Team Europe versus Team USA seemed like you guys had a lot of fun with that.
Absolutely. We have 4 Europeans, 1 returner in Lena, and then the 3 freshmen are all from different countries in Europe. So it's been a lot of fun to get to know them, and I think the Americans are having a lot of fun. They're all learning different words and just hearing all the different accents. We just have a really fun group, and like you said, very unique. So to have 9 players in general just gives there's more diversity in practice. We can do different kind of partnering and different drills, things that we just couldn't do with 5 or 6 players last year. But yeah, to have it split kind of right down the middle with Europeans versus Americans was just too good to be true. You couldn't just sit back and watch the Ryder Cup. We had to get out there and do it. So they had a lot of fun with that, especially the singles matches we played during the practice round. So it gave the practice round a different feel too. Instead of hitting a few balls, they were all taking it very seriously, and if you would have been out there watching, it would have felt just like a tournament round, not a practice round.
And you've had a lot of strong competition. You played a lot of tough junior college competition at your first tournament, which, unlike a lot of sports, junior college golf is really strong. You've got a lot of international players who are trying to get their eligibility for the next level and things like that. Played some tough competition there, and then a lot of Division II competition this week. Haven't seen a whole lot of the NAIA, which I guess is just fine. It doesn't really matter. You're playing the golf course and the scorecard anyway, right?
Right. And these two events in particular were much tougher than the start we got off to last year. So on paper, it's a little deceiving. We started off with 2 second places last year, but the fields are completely different. Like you said, down at Daytona, we saw 3 or 4 of the top 5 junior colleges in the nation. Didn't play particularly well. That wasn't kind of the start that we were hoping for, but we really bounced back this week. And almost every team that we got beat by besides SCAD, like you said, was a top 25 Division II squad, and we even beat 3 or 4 that were still inside the top 25. So I know a couple of other schools were talking about how star-studded this field was. So again, a little bit deceiving with a 7th place finish, but we knocked 45 strokes off last week, and to have 9 out of 10 rounds in the 70s, I was really pleased with that.
And now you've got a few weeks to get back out on the range and the practice green and get some work in, and then you'll head off to Mount Berry, Georgia for the Chick-fil-A Invitational. That's always seems like a pretty strong tournament as well.
Yeah, and that'll be a little bit more of a mix. There will be a couple NAIAs. I know Coastal Georgia is going to be there. We did see SCAD this weekend. They got us by quite a few strokes. They had Alazne returning, and she's always right around par, if not under. So, yeah, a few more NAIA opponents the next 2 events. So I anticipate that we'll finish even stronger than these first 2 events in those 2.
And really, with the youth and inexperience that you do have in the starting lineup, you know, the fall is just about experience and building toward that spring season, and you're getting a lot of that.
Absolutely. I think we're off to a great start, and I look forward even more so to the spring.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show, Alexis. We look forward to following you the rest of the fall, and look forward to a great spring and seeing you at the National Championships just over the state line over in Pooler. Thanks very much to Alexis Bennett for joining us on Coach Speak. We'll be back with more in just a minute here on Sand Shark Bites.
At the University of South Carolina, Beaufort, we offer small classes, individual attention, and an affordable education in an atmosphere that fosters diversity and achievement.
We are students.
We field 9 Sand Shark sports teams that compete in the Sun Conference.
We are athletes.
We are one university with 2 campuses serving the coastal areas of South Carolina and Georgia.
We are the Low Country.
We are the fastest growing 4-year school in the University of South Carolina system. We are USCB.
Welcome back to Sand Shark Bites. Time to wrap things up with the Athlete of the Week. And we could have flipped a coin this time out. It was we had a couple strong performances from female student athletes this week, and it was a tough call. I have decided, in the spirit of the Ryder Cup, to go with Emily Turner from the women's golf team. Emily shot 78-73 at Old South to lead USCB to a tie for 7th. She also led Team Europe to a Ryder Cup championship against Team USA in the Sand Shark Ryder Cup. So that was the tiebreaker for me, was Emily's Ryder Cup victory. Of course, Team Europe took down Team USA in the real Ryder Cup as well, or the official Ryder Cup, shall we say. Ours was very real. So Emily continues to play very well. First 2 collegiate tournaments, she's led the team both times out and looking very strong, and things are shaping up very nicely for USCB women's golf. Look forward to seeing them continue throughout the fall and then into the spring, and you can see them in the national championships right over across the way in Pooler, Georgia at Savannah Quarters Golf Club, assuming we qualify, but we feel like that's a pretty safe assumption at this point. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Sand Shark Bites. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again this weekend at homecoming, and then right back here next week for another episode of Sand Shark Bites. Thanks for joining us, and until then, keep those fins up.